would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hey guys, we're here for our grand finale.
We finally made it.
Yep, the final of the Japanese made Godzilla movies, at least live action. Shin Godzilla and Ingrid, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and take it. So
yeah,
basically, I'm going to assume that it's roughly set at around the time of release, 2014, where basically it's roughly the modern world as you and I know it.
Red tape and all with politics.
Yeah. We're in Japan and we start seeing emergences of this really strange monster. Officials don't really know anything don't really know a whole lot much about it and have their hands tied with things.
Yep,
Then,
again, red tape.
Yeah. Word gets out through a lot of viral technology, and they go, oh shit, we have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Godzilla is mutating and becoming more and more mean as time passes, and they're
more dangerous, too.
More dangerous. As the debates happen, they assemble a crack team of fringe scholars and academic heretics.
Yep.
They try to assemble the Japanese Self-Defense Force, and in this universe, the first time that's actually seriously happened.
Yep, and again, it's like unlike the other times, even 1985, where, in those cases, they're prepped, ready to go, and they don't have the advantage of another Godzilla. This is the first time there's never been a Godzilla in the history. Period.
Yeah, which does have the advantage of making Godzilla feel like a fresh threat, because
and he's not a giant lizard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you call him? Parasitic life taken into a giant form?
It's really hard to pin it down, which it's just like, I feel like it does manage to sort of nail a lot of the terror that the original 1954 movie had, because they had no idea who Godzilla was in that one either, and though obviously Godzilla didn't have as much screen time since most people died before they even really got to comprehend it, whereas here, the terror is that you're slowly seeing it change before your eyes, and it's moving too fast for you to keep up.
And every form is dangerous. Even the googly-eyed was.
Yeah, that one looked a little ridiculous, but yeah.
But it was just disturbing, because its neck is just splurting blood everywhere. You're just like, what the heck?
Yep, and
it is a bit normie when you see everyone take it so seriously. They look like, what is this monstrosity? When it's like, oh, come on, you can't even have one person snicker at the eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that
even
would really
just
happen.
one
Even the
thing
serious
to
moment,
break up an otherwise tense boardroom meeting.
I know, because in real life, someone would be snickering, even like, I know I shouldn't be, but...
Yeah, because people make memes about all kinds of, like, obviously terrible things happening in the world.
Yep, and also this. Okay, let's talk about the human story overall, because at least the human story is reacting to Godzilla. At least it is, but
It's basically the majority of the movie, and
like 3/4 of it,
yeah, like
or almost 3/4 of it.
Yeah.
And
Definitely got the vibes that we had before with
which would be fine if it wasn't almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, actually 2 hours, but yeah.
2 hours, but it felt like it. It felt like 2.5.
Yeah, it really did, and it's like, yeah, there's probably a lot of stuff that got lost in translation that was like a bit more specific to the Japanese audience, and it's very clearly sort of meant to appeal a bit more to the home turf on this one.
Oh, definitely. This was the most Japanese, and the translation was very well handled with Funimation doing it this time.
Oh yes, I was definitely very happy with the appreciable jump in dub quality this time around.
No more Godzillers!
Yep.
Which that's a good way to end this whole marathon out on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even when Godzilla becomes his traditional form and he looks like a zombie.
Yeah, and I do have to give them credit for only bringing in the classic Akira Ifukube leitmotif in once Godzilla had sort of reached the form that we would typically recognize him as.
Yep, but even then you think, oh, well, he's going to be traditional Godzilla going forward.
No, he still has a bit more in store. This is like a 6-phase Final Fantasy final boss fight.
Yep, and for example, we like you think, oh, he's going to do his fire breath. Wait, why is he opening? Wait, what? And then a whole bunch of smoke comes out, then fire fills the entire street. And then finally it turns blue and then becomes a full-on laser beam.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that was a laser beam. That was not heat breath.
Mm.
Would you agree with that? That was a full-on laser beam? And I gotta say, Godzilla's mouth when it was open when he shot his breath was weird.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about when he shot it? How his mouth is like completely widened and you're like, what's with his mouth?
Yeah, it's like, that looks like the maw of a void, not the inside of an organism.
Exactly, but that's not even then, that's not the only trick up his sleeve, because later we find out his spine and tail can shoot the blast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say this. If GMK Godzilla had that ability, I don't think he would have suffered the same fate.
Oh, yeah, and it's just like...
In fact, this is a lot like GMK Godzilla, only without the spiritualness.
Yeah, in this case, I feel like the real enemy, the real big bag evil guy that was in this movie was just the chokehold of red tape that was on the whole situation, both internally and externally.
Exactly.
It's just like the sort of a mess that humanity can end up creating for ourselves, and in this case, Godzilla sort of feels like back to the roots, and he's a giant walking metaphor.
Exactly, but it's more of a metaphor. But instead of being he being the embodiment of the metaphor, it's more his actions bringing about the metaphor through how the rest of Japan is acting.
Mm-hmm. It's just
which is closer to 1985, actually.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And speaking of 1985 parallels, the way they handle the politics is the most realistic.
Yeah, which is both good. It's a sort of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you don't have ridiculous stuff happening.
Yep, no more Cold War.
Yeah, where it's just like, where you're cringing at it, but on the other hand, it gets a bit too real for people's taste, where it's just like, this is feeling uncomfortably close to the reality that I'm trying to escape by watching a Godzilla movie.
Exactly, but...
It's just like, yeah, I gotta give them props for thinking this out, but it's just like, if I wanted to browse my Twitter feed, I'd go browse my Twitter feed. Also,
the body bags here. Especially the fact that at least at first, a lot of characters we thought were safe weren't. Like the Prime Minister getting killed.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, he was just doing his best. He didn't deserve that.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, we get into the finale, in which case, it was pretty clever.
Yeah,
Especially
I
when
really liked that they did the reference where they called it the Hydra in the dub, but it's clearly a reference to the Orochi myth where they ended up luring in the giant eight-headed dragon that, as it turns out, Ghidorah was based off of, and then after he had gotten pissed drunk, then cut off his heads. Except in this case, it's making Godzilla take a bunch of blood coagulant to basically shut him down.
And it works, but the big question is, especially in the clip in the last shot, was it enough?
Will it stay working?
It's because it looks like Godzilla's tail is burst open and trying to transform into a new form, humanoid-looking forms. But there's no talk of any sequels anytime soon, so which I'm grateful. This should be a done in one.
Yeah, this one feels like it should be a standalone movie, and it's just sort of... I have to appreciate it for it just sort of being an update on the Godzilla spirit for some more modern... more modern relevant issues.
And I would definitely compare it to... I would say that the ending felt a lot like... The ending felt a lot like GMK and Mega Gyrus, where they just tacked on he could come back! Would you agree with that? Because like both of those movies felt like they could have just ended. But instead they had to put a whole, he might come back with the beating heart or the roar. Would you put this one in that category of...
I feel like it makes a lot more sense in this way, in that Godzilla is sort of like a lot more foreign to our typical expectations of him with how they've set him up. Like, he's already done a whole lot of mutations we haven't seen him do before. Who's to say that something else crazy couldn't happen?
So what would you rank this one, in all honesty?
I feel like once you sort of like have the disclaimer of kind of warning lots of Japanese cultural context that may not necessarily translate well to a foreign audience, I'd have to say a 7.5 to an 8, because it is a solid movie, if it does get lost in even if it does feel like you end up choking on the red tape along with the characters at times.
I would give it about the same as well. I think more of a solid 7.5, especially since it has some of the least amount of Godzillas. Am I right, dude? Compared to all the others, the ratio for Godzilla here is the most minimal.
Yeah. And that's perfectly fair.
Yep.
I guess I'm sort of looking at it within, more of the context of, historically and culturally what Godzilla movies have been, and sort of, its place in history, which is a lot easier to assess after I actually remember, seeing the reaction to the Fukushima plant disaster online.
Right.
Well, almost a decade ago, or exactly a decade ago, really.
I know. Well, that's why we're at the very end. We may do a retrospective, we may not. At the time of this recording, we haven't decided yet. If we do, you'll see it tomorrow, but this has been a blast, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, I can't think of a better way to spend my time. Recuperating before I head back to work, which in story time will be tomorrow, so I couldn't think of a better way to sort of pass the time when I can't necessarily create other things.
Yep, and...
by reviewing a bunch of movies, corny or not, and having a bit of fun with it.
Yep, but let's be honest, now, we're not going to do a big list yet. That's something we're going to have to discuss later when we do a retrospective, but I would definitely say hindsight wins out in error-wise.
I mean, I really can't disagree.
I think Millennium comes... Well, Showa would be next as far as sheer classic. But Millennium, it's not wrong, but I think so many of the concept reboots and done-in-ones hurt it.
Yeah, it's just
they have great individual movies, but the whole era itself...
is just not really very cohesive.
And Shin Godzilla was the first in solo of its own era, so that don't count.
Yep, the Reiwa era has only just begun.
Yep. Although, now, one day we'll eventually get to doing the anime movies and the anime show all on Netflix, but not now.
I think it's good to leave it here now that we've gotten through all the live action ones.
All
For another
28.
day.
All 28. 28, 29 of them.
That is a lot of Godzilla movies. And I've
Godzilla!
watched every single one of them.
So, yep, I'm going to end it with Godzilla!
Godzilla!
Take care, you guys, and hopefully we'll do a retrospective next. Here's hoping. See ya.
See ya!